Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively common normal-type Pokemon Whismur, the Whisper Pokémon, its uncommon evolution Loudred, the Big Voice Pokémon, and its rare final evolution Exploud, the Loud Noise Pokémon. While they might not appear to be incredibly strong, the members of the Whismur family are fascinating creatures that can more than use the power of sound to completely obliterate anything that dares to get in their way. Whismur possess pinkish-purple ovoid bodies with small feet and hands that seem to possess no digits. They have very large, floppy ears that are the same color as their body, and the tips of their ears and feet are marked with yellow-tinted flesh, with an additional streak of yellow flesh being found just above a small port that leads into the respiratory system on their backside, and yellow cross marks existing on the bottoms of their feet. They have a decent-sized mouth for their form, with no teeth, and they lack a nose, plus their eyes are incredibly small, marked only by a series of 4 unconnected streaks that form a cross formation over each eye. Their evolved form, Loudred, have a semi-round rectangular body with purple flesh and are still bipedal in form, with stumpy legs and knees and flat feet that have a beige splotch of flesh on the bottom and 2 cylindrical toenails, while their hands are more pronounced in this state with defined elbows and 3 fingers per hand. Plus, the single streak of flesh above their posterior respiratory hole has grown into a series of 3 that grow in length and thickness as they ascend along their back. They possess small noses, eyes with black pupils and no other discernible colors, and their mouth is massive, having beige lips and a quartet of cylindrical teeth that frame the enormous window into their throat that their mouth provides. Their ears have become rounded in form, connected to the head by rod-like extensions, and have a megaphone-like form to them, being patterned with a black rind on the edges of their inner ear with a circle of pink flesh in the middle, topped off by a central black dot with an additional ring of black flesh on the backs of their ears. Their final form, Exploud, retains the same skin color as Loudred, but their feet have 4 toes and nails each, 3 in the front and 1 in the back for stability, and their arms are adorned with noticeable creases where their muscles bulge upwards, their elbows having been extended outward to become quite prominent in viewing. Their mouth has lost the beige lips it possessed as Loudred, but their teeth have remained the same even as their jaw strength has increased, and their eyes, aside from their black pupils, have turned a bloody red color and are framed on top by notable eye ridges. Their head is adorned with a series of 7 horn-like fleshy tubes with tips of yellow flesh that act as respiratory ports, their upper central extension having the thickest yellow band, and they possess a pair of large tails with the same physical form and color pattern, with another 2 respiratory ports located on their knees and a further pair on their back, aligned along their spine. Lastly, their front torso possesses a pair of curved yellow flesh markings with the appearance of parentheses, and a similar pair of markings can be found around each of the respiratory ports on their back. The members of the Whismur family are fairly unique in the Pokemon world for their reliance on and ability to manipulate sound for seemingly any purpose they desire, though in their case it is mostly used as a form of attack. Unlike most mammals, these hairless creatures possess a fairly convoluted respiratory system that undergoes development and alteration as they grow from one stage of evolution in their family to the next. And while each has the ability to use sound as a weapon, their biological ability to breathe and interact with the world changes as they grow older and stronger. Unfortunately for these creatures, this does mean that when they are first born, their ability to breathe like most mammals is severely compromised, as they are born without noses and are unable to efficiently inhale air through their mouths. By the time they are fully grown, however, their entire bodies are used for breathing, and can generate devastating blasts of sound that can decimate others and bring large structures crumbling down to the ground, despite the otherwise somewhat short stature of their fully evolved form. However, it is important to note that while these creatures can sometimes be incredibly tenacious in an evolved state, in truth, they tend to get more of a bad reputation than they deserve. In fact, these creatures are actually quite peaceful when not angry or agitated, and are incredibly intelligent despite their abnormal form, with Exploud in particular being thought to have a level of intelligence comparable to that of a human. While their brains are a bit smaller than that of a human, their frontal cortex is highly developed, and their language skills are particularly noteworthy, as these creatures communicate their feelings and information with their kind using an advanced audio format consisting of high-pitched whistles and bellows, using whatever sound port they have available on their body to create a complex series of sounds that have been translated into a mostly understandable language, save for what cannot be understood due to being at the edges of ultrasound and infrasound. In addition to this advanced communication ability, these creatures can demonstrate a deceptive tolerance to sound, as every sound emitting and receiving port on their body is heavily reinforced with thick tissue in order to make them resilient against their own attacks, which normally grants them access to the soundproof ability. Whismur that are particularly prone to being scared into a frenzy by loud noises can also possess Rattled as a hidden ability, however, and Loudred and Exploud that are particularly rambunctious can often generate sonic blasts that are strong enough to disrupt the corporeal forms of even ghost types, in turn granting them access to Scrappy as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, in looking at Exploud, it can be seen that their large, fleshy body has little in the way of serious protection, and their body is not built to be able to move very fast. So their base defense, special defense, and speed stats are below average for a fully evolved normal-type Pokémon. On the other hand, though, their frame possesses durable skin and musculature that grants them a deceptive amount of stamina, and the combination of their sound-based powers and well-developed musculature allows them to hit fairly hard, making their base HP, attack, and special attack stats above average for a fully evolved Pokémon of their type. Their stats alone might not make them seem exceptionally dangerous, but stats do not dictate everything, and these living sound chambers can more than make life miserable for anyone that isn't protected against their powerful sonic attacks. Whismur are sadly ill-equipped for being able to breathe functionally in terms of what normal mammalian biology would dictate, as their throats are closed off by a flap of skin in this form that prevents them from effectively inhaling through their mouth, only being capable of exhaling through it. Instead, they inhale through their floppy ears, possessing reinforced ear canals that can withstand sudden changes in air pressure in order to help them survive in just about any type of environment in that regard. In addition to this, because their body is still developing the complex internal arrangement that is seen in their fully evolved form, Exploud, their body tends to exhale mostly through the respiratory port on their posterior. Only a little bit escapes their mouth when they exhale, resulting in their cries generally being as soft as a whisper, making them very hard to hear in most cases. This goes double for their own body, as their reinforced eardrums and ear canals are less flexible than they should be, so sound does not carry as well inside them, and these creatures have relatively poor hearing. Combined with their poor eyesight, this sadly sets these creatures up to be easily startled by extremely loud noises. And this is a problem, because when these timid creatures are sufficiently frightened or feel that danger is approaching them, they will throw caution to the wind and begin to emit an ear-splitting cry at the volume of a jet plane engine, blasting everything around them in order to repel their potential attackers. This alone can make them dangerous, but it gets worse. Because they often can't even hear themselves breathing, when they do hear their own shrieking, they get even more scared and the volume of their cry increases, resulting in a self-feeding cycle that will only stop when they become exhausted and fall asleep, or their ears are pulled down against them, shutting off their air supply and forcing them to stop. For most trainers, the latter option, though the most dangerous, is usually the best, as their respiratory system is circular in nature and can pump out air as fast as they can inhale it and can do so while inhaling, meaning that they can cry endlessly without needing to stop, and in turn making them fairly dangerous to be around even if they are otherwise mostly harmless. Evolution into Loudred not only grants these creatures the addition of teeth, which grants them access to the bite attack immediately after evolving, but also a more efficient respiratory system that functions more like that seen in a traditional mammal, complete with a nose and the absence of the flap of skin that prevented Whismur from effectively breathing in through their mouth. In this state, these creatures are much more aggressive and predatory in nature, though they are still omnivores, and their body is more efficiently designed to use the power of sound as a direct weapon in and out of battle. Interestingly, while these creatures can emit very large screams through their mouth, most of the time they instead take advantage of their reinforced eardrums to blast it out of their ears with a dangerous twist. Near the base of their ears, these creatures possess a pair of powerful resonating organs connected to their massive lungs, which take up nearly half their entire length and most of the width of their body, which they use to power up their screams. When preparing a sound-based move, these creatures will take a long, deep inhalation, pump most of it into these resonating organs, and stomp their feet while screaming internally a bit to get the sound stored in there to move. Once they are ready, they will then proceed to use their incredibly powerful abdominal muscles to release their cry through their mouth and ears, using the rod-like connecting structures that attach their ears to their body to concentrate the sound in a single direction and effectively convert their ears into loudspeakers, to the point where their normal and even ultrasonic cries can completely destroy wood frame houses. This blast of sound does cause a deafening boom internally that prevents these creatures from hearing anything for a short period of time after using their ears in this way, leaving them vulnerable to attack, but this is usually not a concern for them, as their attacks can blow over just about any opponent they come across and negate the duration of time this weakness lasts for. Considering that the shock waves that their sound-based attacks generate can be enough to tip over a truck, this can make these creatures a surprising threat, which is not helped out by the fact that they tend to also be arrogant in disposition in the wild and can be easily irritated into using their powerful voice to repel others forcefully, resulting in them often not being very popular Pokemon in their local habitats. When Loudred evolve into Exploud, their physical form changes radically, the resonating organs attached to their ears growing to fill nearly the entirety of their body cavity and effectively replacing their lungs. In turn, these creatures develop a number of fleshy respiratory ports across their frame. Counting their nostrils and mouth, these creatures possess a total of 14 respiratory ports that they breathe through and release sound from in a number of ways, using an extremely sensitive and advanced musculature system to adjust the shape and even length of these ports to emit sound at a variety of volume levels, tones, and frequencies, allowing them to make cries ranging from the ultrasonic to the infrasonic with ease out of pure muscle memory. While their imposing frame and powerful jaws, which grant them access to the Crunch attack immediately after evolving, as well as the Fire Fang, Ice Fang, and Thunder Fang attacks with a bit of assistance, are dangerous enough, it's the sound waves these creatures can generate that can make them a dire threat far beyond their otherwise mediocre base stats might suggest. In essence, most of the body of Exploud is a series of resonating chambers that can be individually manipulated in order to create sound. And while these creatures are generally soft-spoken and not as outwardly aggressive as Loudred, when they are agitated and angry, nothing is safe from their cries. With the full power of their vocal abilities at their disposal, these creatures are able to generate powerful bellows and roars so intense that they can cause tremors strong enough to trigger earthquakes, potentially causing catastrophic damage to their surroundings. Aside from enabling them to naturally learn the devastating Hyper Beam attack later in life, their incredibly reinforced form, which is built to be able to handle their most violent screams, is strong enough for these beasts to unleash their sonic powers at maximum volume in the form of a boom burst attack, so strong that it can knock down entire forests with a single blast, making Exploud by far one of the most potentially destructive Pokemon in the world. These creatures can be heard from as much as 6 miles away, and are thus best avoided, as while it is easy to tell when they are preparing a powerful attack, as they will inhale violently through all of their respiratory ports, there is very little that is capable of withstanding the devastating shockwave carried by their voice, and in turn, there are few types of Pokemon that can take the most crippling sounds these monsters can emit, and not end up critically injured, or at the very least severely disoriented afterwards. Though their awkward and somewhat grotesque forms might be off-putting to some, the members of the Whismur family are deceptively dangerous creatures that can more than use the power of sound to level the playing field and the opposition in nearly any battle. You may have to invest in some serious ear protection if you want to use these creatures in battle, but for those looking to add a sturdy and powerful normal-type Pokemon to their team, there are a few others that can make an impact quite like these creatures in a fight. Just do yourself a favor and make sure that you keep yourself on their good side and don't make life too difficult for them. They may be somewhat placid in their fully evolved state, but if you do something to make them angry, you may be unfortunate enough to personally learn how it feels to have your ears broken by ultrasonic sounds, or, even worse, have your internal organs liquefied by the deepest infrasonic bellows they can generate. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
No.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.